What is going on YouTube? Dr. Ryway here, and y'all gonna need to listen up for this video. This is gonna be a banger. So I got a request. Well, somebody wrote in the comment section, how do I build a team? And then see, I don't believe in giving half-ass answers. So like to answer that question requires you to have at least to answer that question to the fullest extent of the fucking law. That question requires you to understand a lot of the concepts in the game, like typings, like the typing elements of the dragons and the matchups. It requires you to know the dragon's function on your team. It requires you to kind of know about the different strategies with different types of team builds. It's not a easy question in good conscience to ask. Like if I was probably some random YouTuber, I would have just responded to the comment and then left it there, But I'm not trying to be no. Fuck, this thing is in the way. Gotta move this out the way. Okay, there's like an overlay of my screen that you guys probably can't see. So the thing is that I have to teach you about dragon brands. I have to teach you about typing. I have to teach you about the different types of dragons. So in this video, I'm just gonna attempt because doing all that is gonna make the video 40 minutes easy, right? But I just want to talk about the types of dragons that there are in the game. And if you want the short version, because a lot of you guys don't watch the video past like 3 minutes, is that you have AoE dragons, nuke or single target type dragons, you have disablers, you have support slash buffers, and then you have healers. So with the AoE just stands for area of effect. Those are the dragons that have a skill that can hit multiple enemies. Typically, I think everyone is abilities that hit everybody. Then you have nuke or single target attackers who do a lot more focus damage, but on one target. You have disablers; those are the ones that have like CC in the game, crowd control. Rini is a good example of a disabler. Then you have support slash buffers. That's somebody that can buff your speed, your damage. And then I'm also gonna put in that category debuffers, the ones that can, put weaknesses on the enemy team. That they're in that same category. Then you have healers. That's self-explanatory. The ones that give you your health back. Fairy's a good one. So, well, I guess that was kind of quick. That was only 3 minutes, and that's pretty much the types of dragons. And then what I want to do is, like, the categories aren't necessarily exclusive to each one. So if you're one, doesn't mean that you can only be in that category. There's combination pairs. So let's go to the dragons because I'm just talking, not showing you anything. Bobby showing some shit. Okay, so a lot of you guys, I don't like legendaries. I like epic. Everybody talks about legendaries too much. I like epics. I really do. So the most AoE. Oh, I forgot to say tanks too. Tanks are definitely. I didn't even think about that. Tanks are definitely a type of dragon. Tanks are usually the ones like Arita's a tank, for example. Also, another class, but you could call it a tank because, tank mainly because it has the defense and the HP. If it has good defense, good HP, chances are it's a tank. What's not a tank? Oh, sweet Jesus. Let me show you somebody that's not a tank. Definition of not being a tank. Velociraptor. CC. That ain't no tank. Squishy. Squish, squish, squish. Okay, so going back to the AoE, an AoE dragon, because your dragon can be AoE. That just means that it hits multiple targets. You have AoE disablers, you have AoE damage dealers, you have AoE buffers. So, for example, Innsmouth is definitely AoE. This hits everybody, but he's more of a buffer for your team than he is so much about the raw damage. Because, for example, this only does 124 damage. There's other AoEs that, hit like a fucking truck. There's not many that come to mind here. I think Gearing, for example, hits a lot harder, 184. you know, a sizable amount of increase of damage, but he's not a debuffer or a buffer. You know, he doesn't have the extra effect that, you know what I'm saying, Insmount had. Boom. You see that? Because he increases the damage. So while he doesn't do a lot of damage, you increase, you know, you use this ability, he attacks first, and then your big boy damage comes up, and then it means a lot more because we're taking 20% of somebody that's going to hit a lot harder than he is. And he has pretty balanced stats, actually. Okay, so that's AoE. Now, and then you got Nuke and single target, right? Who I think about like that core, 320, that's a heavy ass hit. You know, a lot more than 184, but it's one target. So you actually do less damage with single target, but if you want to take somebody out specifically, a lot of times these single target guys are the way to do it. I don't particularly like these raw damage ones. And then this I'm gonna have to go to legendary to show you. I like ones that have like the special effects to them. Like this does a lot less damage, but ignoring 50% of your enemy's defense, you shred tanks, for example. I like these types of special, like an additional effect type single target. Personally, that's just my own flavor, but that's nukes, so to speak. Then you have disablers. Since we're already on legendaries, these are the guys that stun enemies. 30% chance to stun. Damage is okay. Damage is usually a little bit on the lighter side with these disablers, but you know they provide that utility in the sense that, okay, well, if you stun two of their people, right, then that's two people that don't do damage. Now, if they're damage dealers, that's like super huge, depending on who you stun, because that limits what the enemy team can do. You know, a lot, like a very lot. I think they're some of the more underrated people, underrated dragons in the game, and honestly, I think I shit on people that are stronger than me typically because I'm using this particular dragon. That's disablers. Then you got support slash buffers, also debuffers. The biggest buff that comes to mind that a lot of people are probably familiar with is Genie. Increases the speed bar by 20% and increases the attack by 25%. That's explanatory. He just makes you do a lot more damage, and then he speeds you up as well. A little bit more of a weirder buffer that can be used correctly if you're actively playing is Lasvik. For one, he can increase the speed of everybody 20. So it pretty much makes your team faster than any other team. I'm pretty sure if you have this, especially if you're building them the right way, you put speed on the characters that need it. And you also have Time Walker, and this is a really crazy skill. It essentially allows you to use the same move twice. So like let's say you use Nick's third ability, does a fuck ton of damage, and then you pop this ability on Nick's, and then you do that same ability right after that. Crazy insane, right? That's a buffer. He doesn't do his own damage. Think of buffers as they don't do their own damage necessarily, but they help other people get off a lot of damage. Another way that you can kind of support is with shields. Shields are really good. A lot of tanks usually have shields as well. This is a shield. This is a really good shield that I wish people would use more often. It makes you immune to crowd controls. This is a crazy ass skill to have. And it's really a counter to those disabler types. Because you're immune to crowd control. So you can't be disabled. Other supports. There's some other supports that one that comes to mind is Minotaur, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. He's not a buffer, but he's a support type character. He debuffs, and he actually does pretty respectable damage. On top of that, this ability reduces crit. So there's a lot of crit based teams out there. Everybody fucking has Nyx on their team. He's really good, obviously, with crit. That's a good buffer. You got Pyralis, who isn't necessarily really good with crit, but does a lot of damage in general. So being able to debuff those type guys, AoE guys, with the reduced crit chance. It's pretty big, especially on crit-based builds. So this is more of a debuffer. Another skill that I do want to particularly, and I don't know who has this skill. It's a legendary, but I know who has it as an epic. I'm pretty sure. Who has that skill? Comment, I know has it. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, the ones that dispel debuffs are actually pretty good. This is another way that you can support anything that gives your team an extra bonus or it debuffs the enemies, they give the enemies a disadvantage. I would consider a buff debuffer support. They offer in this category, but despelling is really good because let's say you get hit with the bullshit like a stun or something like that. You can just dispel all that shit and then it's off of you. So essentially, and besides for the damage, it's a wasted turn on the dragon's part. Okay. Then you got healers. And there's different types of healing. There's that big boy, like everyone healing. For example, you got guys like Dark Star. Good single target healing on a low cooldown. Big boy healing. This one happens to increase crit. You got guys like that. He's a little bit more of an offensive healer. Then you have more defensive healers like Fairy. You can give you that damage reduction. Really big heal. Single target healing. Then you got guys like Kerr, who has okay healing, just one ability, just one target. But then he has that buffer again with the damage reduction. And then you got guys like Unicorn, who can heal a certain amount of HP. That's like their thing, because those other guys that I was showing you, it's based on their attack stat. But these guys, it's just based on HP. So the more HP, the Unicorn has, for example, the more that you'll heal. So if you got a fuck ton of HP on this guy, he'll heal like crazy. It's really good. And then this just heals by the actual whatever dragon you're actually resurrecting HP. I like the resurrect. I think they're better to be to use on the offensive end and defensive. For the most part, there are some builds that it works in. But that's what I just did was kind of break down the different classes and then try to tell you kind of how they work together. That's the attempt that this video was trying to do. In the next video, I did a Dragon Brand video before, but I think it would be more beneficial for me to redo that video because I have a lot more knowledge. It's pretty much the same thing, but a little bit more finesse and nuance to the knowledge about the Dragon Brands and how to set them up. I'll talk about that, and then I'll talk about a little bit about typings later to tell you what are the better typings. And then another thing is like what stage of the game are you at? Like I can tell you what I think you should be looking for the end game, right? As a free-to-play player, but then if you spend money, you might have access to some dragons that are just as valuable, But if you didn't spend money, some of these dragons wouldn't really be accessible to you as much in the end game because the problem with a lot of dragons is that you have to star them up because, for example, I don't know what I'm talking about. This isn't about typing, but it's important. I'm going to talk about it in this video. I have a fully starred out Ruby, right? Look at this damage number. The base damage on this guy is 8,914, right? Then I have a Nyx. Where the fuck is Nyx? Level 70, 10 levels ahead, right? 2-star, but he's not even. He's missing like 1,000. He's close, but he's not that close to the damage number. You see, so he's weaker. So if I had to choose between Ruby and Nyx, I'm probably gonna choose Ruby. Even though if I didn't need the AOE or the anti-heal, I would definitely choose Ruby because that stat is just so much higher, and that's how it is with a lot of dragons. If you like any epic that's fully starred up will always be the legendary. You know, and if I could get one of the shittier legendaries, start them up to 5-star, and go put them up against the best legendary at 1 or 2 stars, it's a night and day difference. I'll shit on that 1 or 2 star every time. So, because how long it takes to star them up, and some, shards, um, or puzzle pieces are harder to get. Uh, where is it? Shards are harder to get than other ones. Then all dragons aren't really equal at the end of the game. And even the breedable legendary, some take longer than others. So if you go for like a unicorn, maxed out, that's going to take a lot longer than trying to get a Hades, that's maxed out. They're on literally opposite ends of the spectrum of how long it takes for breedable epics. So that's just something to keep in mind. So hopefully this video is going to, like I said, it's going to be a series of videos in an attempt to answer one of my subscribers' question on how to build a team. Well, this is the information that you need that'll at least give you the background knowledge to start thinking about, okay, how do these dragons work together, how they're supposed to function in the game. There you go. I've said enough. 16-minute video, and I'll see you in the next one. Become a master dragon tamer.